This video is brought to you by VolunteerAudio.com, your #1 source for all things Harley Davidson audio. From individual radios, speakers, and amps to complete plug-and-play amp and speaker systems, we've got you covered. And once you've ordered your package from Volunteer Audio, it includes lifetime tech support. And we have the very best step-by-step installation video so you can install it yourself and save money. Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee, and I'm excited today to show you what we've been waiting for quite some time. This is the new Soundstream Reserve HDHU.9813SG. That 9813 is the year range. From 1998 to 2013, all Electra glides, Ultra glides, street glides, those Batwing fairing bikes can now be brought into the future with a new touchscreen radio. Completely plug and play and revolutionary on how it installs in your bike. So keep watching as I go over all the features of this radio and even show it to you installed in a bike so that you can make the right decision. Is this what you need for your 98 to 13 Electra glide, street glide, or Ultra? All right, so let's talk a little bit about how we got here installing a Soundstream radio on a Harley to begin with. So a short year and a half ago, Soundstream Reserve introduced this HDHU 14 Plus. It was the first directly bolt-in plug-and-play radio for the 14 and newer Harley Davidsons. IPX rated, better display, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all the things we needed in one of those bikes, they were the first to do it. Now then there were a lot of naysayers. People were like, will it hold up? How well will it last? It's a lot of money to put this radio in and we don't know about it. A year and a half later, I'll tell you, they have been awesome. The defect rate has been extremely low. The warranties on the few that have had problems have been super easy in process. Soundstream has done many updates already to make these radios even better. And since then, they've released more models. So they listened to us and the additional parts and the things we wanted in the radio. And then they released this new model, the HDHU 14 SI. It added a few awesome things, like it retained factory boom amplifiers and CVOs. It added the ability to display all the vehicle information, such as gauge information, in those 14 and newer bikes. It's been a huge success and it's been phenomenal. I'm telling you all this to kind of ease your mind on this product. It's not new. It is a rendition of those two radios, but made for the 98 to 13 Street Glide. With that being said, we've already got this model for the Road Glide, the HDHU 9813RG. It's went in, it's been phenomenal. The owners that I've spoke to that have bought this and put in their bike are so happy. You've got a beautiful bike. It may be a few years old and you want that new tech, but you don't want to spend $30,000 or $40,000 on another new bike. So by buying this radio and putting it in, many people have told me, you saved me a boatload of money buying a new Harley, and I am back in love with my existing bike. So that brings us to today. We've been waiting a few months. 2 months ago, almost 3, we introduced a video about this radio and started pre-orders for it. There's been a few setbacks, but I can tell you right now, at the time of this video, this is the first one we've received. It was overnighted for the video, but we're just a few days from now, we'll be shipping these to everybody that pre-ordered, and we'll have them available on our site for you to buy and put in your bike. So the time is now to give you a video going over it in person, as well as we're launching a step-by-step video that'll launch later. So watch our next video as well to see exactly how to install every bit of what it takes to put it in your bike. So this radio, let's talk about features. It's the same features as the HDHU 14 Plus and the HDHU 9813RG. 13-band equalizer, high-pass and low-pass filters, sub-control, but the things I really like, the display is optically bonded, so it's easy to see even with sunlight on it compared to any other radio you would have in your bike. It has an awesome clean output to feed amplifiers. So even though it has a 50 watt by 4 amp inside the radio, which is a lot stronger than factory, we know you're going to want to put an amplifier on to get that volume louder than the wind in the engine, and they give us a great signal to feed into that amplifier. We've also added something you've never had before, the ability to have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on that older bike. So now you have always up-to-date navigation, access to your music apps, everything you wanted, that new tech is now in this radio. So on top of that, we have a backup camera input. We have SiriusXM inputs. We have so many other features and some things that are very, very different about this radio that we'll go over now. So on your stock radio, or your stock fairing for that matter, you actually have a turn signal neutral indicator up on the middle of your fairing. This radio, to be big enough to meet Apple CarPlay and Android Auto certification, you have to have a certain size screen. It's got to be 6.8 inches or bigger. This is right at 7 inches. To do that, they had to cover that bar on your fairing. So Soundstream did this awesome job of integrating in the top of the radio. It's actually a much better looking display than what was originally in your fairing, and it's super simple because they put the factory plug. You simply unplug the factory display that had that little turn signal indicator, you plug into the radio, and that is a standalone part in the radio. So even if the radio were to fail, which we don't believe is going to happen, but if it did, that turn signal bar and all of that continues to work with or without radio function. You don't even have to plug the radio in for that to work, only that bar. I think they did a great job on that design. Also, you just don't have much room between the ignition switch and the fairing. Previously, the only option we had was to replace the entire inner fairing with a doubled-in fairing. If you've ever installed one of those, it can be a bear. It's many, many hours of labor. Fitment on it's not always great, and you've got to run everything exactly like it should to possibly get it to bolt back together. It can be a nightmare for some people that have attempted to put that doubled-in fairing in. We've done plenty of them, and we've even done videos showing you how to do it, but I will not do it any longer because I believe this is a much, much better solution. Easier to install, and the end result, I think, looks as good or better. These guys have done an awesome job. I'll show you in just in a minute on the bike what it looks like. But again, just a quick recap. If you want new technology, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, a 13-band EQ, you probably didn't even have bass and treble adjustment on that factory radio, while remaining IPX marine rated. We don't have to worry about rain. We don't have to worry about washing the bike. This radio is going to continue to last for years and years. And on top of that, it does have a full 2-year warranty from Soundstream if something were to happen. So this is our 4th model. We've been selling them for a year and a half. So far, they have been awesome, and I expect no difference out of this radio because it is these same radios in a different shape and size. It took a while, but I think they did an excellent job of building a radio to fit your bike perfectly. All right, so let's move to the bike. We'll get it tore apart. I'll show you the radio installed, and we'll let you see it in action. All right, so when Soundstream built this radio, they have a Street Glide motorcycle that they take to events, that they build their systems around, that they designed this radio around. Something we found out later, after the radios got here and they've already been produced, Harley actually has 2 different fairings on these 98-13 bikes. Believe it or not, they actually changed the depth of this plastic slightly between a factory tour pack bike, something that had rear speakers or a CVO, and a base model bike. Now the difference is about 2 millimeters. Now we've got this awesome rubber gasket to seal water out and make sure that none of the water that ends up on the radio ends up in the fairing. So they built us this heavy duty gasket, and on a Street Glide or a base model bike with no rear speakers, this is going to be an extremely easy slide it in, put the bolts in, install. This particular bike having a factory tour pack, I wanted to show this to you on the harder bike because it's still not going to be that hard to install. This fairing's a little thicker, and you're going to have to push harder as you line up these bolts on the side of the radio. So we're just going to take our radio and we're going to slide it in from the front. It just goes back through this factory hole. We're going to get it in so far. I'm going to check and make sure that none of my wiring is in a position to get pinched or damaged, that it's all pulled out here, just making sure that there's nothing in the way. I'm then going to take the radio, and while pulling on the back of the chassis and pushing on the front, I'm going to get my bolts between those factory brackets. I've got my radio pushed in. Now we have our gasket. We're going to want to push this so that the radio is all the way against the fairing to give us enough room for this switch to turn. It went in pretty easy. This is the first time this radio's went in this bike. You saw me wiggle it and put it in. I'll have our photographer come around to the other side, and I'll do this again so you can see it from the other angle. So I'm going to push the radio back out and just show you what I did from this side. So with my hand on the front, hand on the back, this is one person. We're not having to use 2 or 3 people to put this in. I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to get one of my bolts slightly past this bracket. I'm going to push out on this bracket so I get a little bit of clearance. They've made this the exact width. Now just wiggling this and pulling backwards, both of my bolts have lined up with these holes. Now I'm going to start all 4 bolts, and then while pushing forward, I'm going to tighten them to get as much room to compress that gasket as much as possible to make room for that ignition switch. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to pull this as much as I can this way. And I'm going to get it where it's good and tight. Now I want you to notice something. On both sides we have a bracket, and we have a nice fin here that you could put a screwdriver in, and you can pull it a little tighter as you're tightening your bolts. I think rather than try to use 2 or 3 people and just grunt force pulling it, put you a tool in here, pry that slightly out, and tighten it down. So we're just going to grab a screwdriver, and we're going to do that very thing. See how much more pull I was able to get very, very simply just by using this screwdriver. We'll do that on both sides. And as you get it pulled out, then go ahead and tighten that bolt down so it'll stay there. So now I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take my screwdriver, put in this bracket, and just kind of pull this backwards. All we're doing is we're using our screwdriver to compress our gasket and then locking it in place. All right, so after fully compressing that gasket, this is almost touching. It's not quite touching, but it's right at it. And you'll see that your radio is pulled all the way back and that rubber is touching this fairing. It's going to give us just enough room to get our switch back in. All right, so now that we've got our screen in as far as we can get it and it's good and tight, we're going to drop our switch back in that access position. We're going to push it all the way down, and we're going to rotate it around and get it to drop in. We're locked in, and if you notice, we've got a pretty good distance here. You can see the contrast on my finger. There's room. It's not like it's touching the screen. Now, if you go all the way to fork lock, you'll see you can bring it all the way around to where it will just barely touch the screen. But no risk that we're going to end up scratching or leaving any damage on it. I think they did an excellent job with the fitment because there's really no play here at all. And remember, this is the thicker fairing. It's going to go in even easier and give you even more room on the regular Street Glide. All right, so I've had a lot of questions. A lot of people said, I don't know what this is going to look like on my fairing. I don't know if I like the look of that. Now, come on, we know nobody likes change. 6 months from now, we'll all want the new CVO or the new body style Harley. But right now, I keep seeing people say, oh, I don't like it. It looks like an Indian. Well, I think this is kind of the same thing. We've never seen this before. It's kind of throwing you off some. But I will tell you in person, standing here, and I hope it shows in the video, this radio fits awesome. They did a great job of where they proportioned and put everything. It doesn't block any gauges. It doesn't block any switches. From sitting on the bike, it is an excellent angle to be able to see it. You're not going to have a lot of glare issues because as the sun reflects off this, it's not going to reflect back up at your face. I love everything they've done. And really, they couldn't have moved it any other place and fit this size screen and cleared everything. Now, let's power it up. You'll see here, first thing, our bar is coming up, showing us our oil pressure indicator, our neutral indicator. If we do turn signals, we'll see those come up. I mean, just awesome looking display, and that actually looks a lot better than the original button bar behind it that would have showed you these same things. We do have on this radio the ability to change the color of our buttons and also do a custom background in the radio also. So you can make this look even better on your Harley than what you're seeing even here. And we'll go in there real quick, we'll do that. Let me go back to our home. Let's go to home. Let's go to settings. I'll show you this real quick. Go to display. We can change the brightness at night, so it's going to be brighter during the daytime, yet dark at nighttime, so it's not going to have an overwhelming amount of brightness. You can hit touch key color here, turn it off auto. Now you can select a color. You're going to have white, red, orange. Orange is going to match most factory gauges, but if you've already done a conversion to red or blue or one of the other colors we see, you can also turn those on, so it's going to match that theme that you've got on your Harley. Also, if you go back here, you go to background wallpaper. There's some nice preset wallpapers that aren't too busy so you can see them very well in the daytime. But if you want to take any image, like maybe you have a riding club and you have a logo for that, or you want to put your own Harley logo background or something on there, simply put that image on a USB flash drive, plug it in the USB and hit this plus, and you're going to be able to select it and make it the background on your radio. It looks awesome, but there's some things you can do to make it look even better, like those custom wallpapers. Back to our home screen, let's go over our sources. When we have our phone plugged in, Apple CarPlay or Android Auto are going to be active and you're going to be able to select that. We also have FM radio. We have the USB input if you want to put music on a flash drive. SiriusXM if you've added the SiriusXM standalone tuner, or you'll also have a SiriusXM option in Android Auto and Apple CarPlay if you have the app on your phone. Bluetooth music and the ability to do phone. And right as we go across the screen, we have our daytime, nighttime button. So you'll see it's brighter for the day, a little dimmer at night. Plenty of brightness. It's as bright as the factory GTS radio on your 14 and newer Harleys, or actually those 19 and newer that we had at factory. Right here on the home screen, we have a settings button to get you into the menus, or a quick EQ button to get to the EQ. But let's go back to our system settings. We'll go to audio. We'll talk about everything we get here. So if we go to EQ, you'll see we have a beautiful 13-band EQ. We can turn that to custom, or we can do the preset EQs. I will tell you, the preset EQs boost things too much for my liking. We like to set our amplifiers at full output at flat, and then we adjust down what we have too much of. All right, so this side of the screen is going to be your bass. The mid is going to be the middle third section, and this side is treble. Now, what they've given us is the ability to take down like the higher range frequencies that are a little more annoying at 8K and 12.5K, while keeping our treble that's not so ear-piercing up. But with 13 bands of adjustment, you can tweak this in exactly where you will want it and make it sound awesome. If you add a drop-in subwoofer, we actually have full sub control. We can adjust sub phase, sub level, crossovers that are doing that. All right, so with crossovers, we have the ability to set a frequency. And for instance, I just turned on 60 hertz. What that's going to do, it's going to take our front and rear speakers, and it's not going to let it play at the same volume anything lower than 60 hertz. So our speakers will actually play louder and clearer without distorting. It's going to make those factory speakers sound better than they ever have, but it's going to allow those aftermarket speakers as well to play much louder and much clearer that you've put your amp on. Now you can also set these crossovers on an amp. Not all amps have them, so they've built it into the radio for us. So with all the features that we have here, between the ability to adjust our audio, the ability to change the way our display looks, the ability to add all of these new sources, I think this radio is absolutely phenomenal. Now remember, it's completely plug and play, and it does maintain your thumb controls. They're right here. They're going to work like they always have. We have volume up and down. We have mute by pressing in on the right side. We also have our channel change over here. Quick pressing goes through presets. Holding it's going to scan to the next station. And you can press in on it to go through all available sources. So I know we just showed you this nice looking home menu, this home screen, where you'd select your source, but going down the road, you're not going to bring this up and touch the screen. You're going to press in on that right control, and it's going to go through all available active sources. If CarPlay or Android Auto was active and plugged in, it would give you that option as well. All right, so as we get toward the end of the video, I hope we have covered all the things that you wanted to know about this radio. I hope we've eased your fear of the look, because it looks amazing. The fear of install, because it was very easy to put in. Now watch our next video where I show you step-by-step everything it took to put it in. I hope we've covered all the features and allowed you to see, is this the right radio for you to put in your bike? If you like this video, definitely subscribe to Volunteer Audio, because we're going to make many, many more like it around this platform of bike. How to install your tour pack speakers, lowers, uppers, drop-in subs, amplifiers. We'll show you step-by-step how you can do this yourself, save a bunch of money on labor, and have an awesome end result using the Volunteer Audio plug-and-play packages that we're going to offer to go along with this radio. Hats off to Soundstream. It is another game changer. Phenomenal radio. You couldn't have done it any better. And with this video, I hope it showed you how easy it is that you can do this yourself and put it in and bring that bike into the future. Thank you so much for watching Volunteer Audio. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. If anything that you wanted to know wasn't covered, please comment below. I'll answer your questions, maybe cover it in a future video. I'd love to hear from you. Call us at Volunteer Audio at 1-844-30-AUDIO. We'd love to talk to you about your system, your goals, put something together that fits your price point, and build it so it's so easy that you can do it following along with our videos. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, God bless.